Hello, everyone. I think we're live. Let me check. All right, looks like we're live. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday with the Heart Girls -1 because Susan had a meeting today that she needed to be in. So you're getting me, but guess what, guys? Next week we'll be back together, joining you live on Tuesday. So you get to hear from both of us. So this week, I was thinking about what to talk about because obviously, if you're going to do this by yourself, you got to have quite a bit to talk about. And it's a little different platform because there's not the back and forth conversation. And so I began to think about, okay, what is it that like I know about and what is something that like I have overcome or something that maybe even still flares up. And so I just wanted to get really real with you guys this Tuesday. So definitely, if you can't listen to all of this right now, save it for later and jump back in. Is that an eyelash right there? I think it is. Anyway, got it. But jump back in and listen to this because I do believe that this is something that we probably all deal with, but we're not even really aware because maybe we don't show up in the way that we think of, people showing up in this particular way. So this is going to be for everybody. Even if you do not feel like you deal with anger, this is going to be for you. So I want you to bookmark this, share this with your friends, share this on your, excuse me, Facebook platform, and let's really bless each other today as I jump into what I'm going to talk about today. So kind of like I was thinking of like, what can I name this? Because I like to name our lives. And it's something funny because it's something that my husband used to say to me all the time. What are you mad about? But I want to change it a little bit and say, what are you really mad about? Because a lot of times it's not like we think it's this one thing that we're mad about, like this thing that just happened or, like something that we've been ruminating on, but we don't realize that it's much deeper. And so have you ever like totally lost it over something small? Like dishes in the sink, anybody? Or someone's tone of voice, or your partner walking past the laundry pile like it's invisible. I have this joke in my house that my husband and son, because that's who I live with right now, my son lives with us still, and they put dishes in the sink, and I always joke and say, "Do you guys think there's a dish fairy?" Because, like, I feel like, sometimes we can get so bent out of shape, so angry about something small, and we can lash out or say something. And sometimes it's just joking, but other times, that joke comes a little more, hits them a little bit harder, and it really doesn't feel like a joke. It kind of feels like maybe a little passive aggressive. And so, like, when we have these kind of outbursts, we can think like, where did that come from? Or maybe we don't even realize like how intense it was. And the other person is thinking like, wow, where did that come from? And so that is actually what we're going to talk about today. Because usually when we're mad, what we're mad about isn't really what we're mad about. Like, we're not flipping out over dishes, right? That's a small thing. We're flipping out because we feel unseen or we feel unappreciated or just plain tired of carrying everything. Like I've been there where I do it all and then I resent everybody for doing it all. And, obviously that's not fair because I stepped up to do it in the first place and everybody just let me. And so oftentimes what we're doing is we're just trained to stuff these emotions. So anger steps in and says, don't worry, girl, I got you. I will help you release this emotion a little bit so we can keep everything else tapped down. So let's start with the truth. Now, a lot of times we look at anger as a primary emotion. It's explosive. But anger is actually a secondary emotion. And what that means is that it's not usually the first thing we feel. It's it usually what shows up when we're trying not to feel something deeper. So think about things like disappointment or grief or shame, fear, rejection, or hopelessness. Anger shows up when we feel unsafe, like it's unsafe to show disappointment or unsafe to show grief or unsafe to show shame. And this always comes back to whenever we were younger. And we don't always have language for those emotions, or we weren't allowed to express them growing up. So guess what jumps in to keep us strong? Anger. Anger shows up and it's there because it's what gets people's attention. So here's how I think of it. Anger is like a smoke alarm. It's loud, obnoxious, demanding attention. But if you only deal with the smoke and never find the fire, you'll stay stuck, right? The house will eventually burn down. So when you feel angry, don't just silence the alarm. Ask yourself, where's the fire really? So let's go back for a moment, because most of our current anger responses didn't start last week. They started years ago, like I said before. So if you grew up in a home where you weren't allowed to express your feelings, I kind of felt like that growing up in my home, that everybody else had really big feelings and there just wasn't room for me. And so I found myself walking on eggshells. And that could be another thing where maybe in childhood you felt like you had to walk on eggshells because maybe one of your parents had extreme emotions. Or maybe you were praised for being quiet or helpful or self sufficient. And when that happens, we get the understanding like there is a belief system within us that those are the things that people value, the ones that love us, our closest family members. And so we begin to live out life that way and think that if we're loud, we're going to be unacceptable. Or if we're not super helpful, if we're not going to show up and do all the things and be the strong one and be the caregiver or the one that always gives help, that we're not going to be loved and appreciated. Or if we ask for too much. So if we're not self-sufficient, if we are needy or in our mind needy, if we have needs that other people that we need them to fulfill, that we're somehow not going to be appreciated or loved. And that is our number one need as a little child, is to be loved and to be accepted and to be a part of. So that belonging is really big. So if you grew up in a household where there was some of these, messages being given, then you likely learn to suppress your real needs. You learn to cope, to survive, and not to feel, or at least not to show them. And so eventually you tried to become numb to those feelings that were in your mind inappropriate for the people that you loved. And so now when your body gets flooded with emotion, like when you feel ignored or unseen or out of control, you snap. And then comes the guilt. I did that for so long. And then the shame. Oh, Lord, have mercy. The shame was so heavy. And the internal dialogue. Why can't I just keep it together? Why can't I just show up and love? Why do I always show up with this with a snap, with a flash, with an explosion? So let me just share something from my own life. So there was a time, man, I had just like separated from, well, actually we'd been separated for a while, but I had just recently um, moved into a much smaller place and I was on my own with two kids. And there was just a lot of pressure if you can think of like a single mom figuring it out. Like I wasn't getting any really support in any way, financial or emotional or like any really from their father. And I was in a new city and trying to make friends, but also still living in that don't want people to see who you really are and don't be too needy and, like show up and have it all together. And so there's just a lot of pressure that I'd put on myself and that just really was there with 2 young kids. And I, like, had these times where I would just explode on my children. It could be something super simple about they left something out or they needed me in some way, and I just wasn't emotionally available or had any kind of thing to give them, and so I just yelled at them. And I hated that because I love my kids so much. Like, that's the last person I would ever want to yell at. Let me back up a little bit. That's the way I was treated when I was a little girl and as I grew up. And I told myself, I will never do that to my kids. Well, watch when you say you never, because a lot of times when whatever we try to like not become in our parents, that eventually shows up within us because instead of us like stepping into who we are and healing in those places, we just vow to never be like them. And then we end up, later in life showing up just like that person. And that was me. Like I had these ragers. And so I just I went into this spiral of shame after. Like, of course, my daughter runs to her room, and I am just sitting there feeling like the worst mother on the planet. Like, I don't even deserve to be a mom. How could I ever do that? Like, how am I going to have her forgive me? How is she going to know that I love her? But really when I sat with it, I was so overwhelmed. I had no space for anything, and so I took that out on the first person that came to me that I could vent on. And so I realized that of course it wasn't even about her. It wasn't about the things that she did or didn't do. She didn't do anything wrong, really. It was about an old wound of feeling dismissed or small or alone. And so I eventually, of course, went in and apologized to her. And that was the saving grace because she always forgave me. And then, eventually I did get help and I stopped doing that. That was not something that she lived with her whole life. But when I look back at that, that moment triggered a little girl. It's like an 8-year-old version of me who never got to have a voice. So the adult me blew up. She was not gonna not have a voice. She was not gonna be pushed around. And again, this was not about my daughter. This was about just something that triggered that within me. And I didn't do it because I'm mean. I did it because I was hurting and I didn't have the words for it in the moment. And the sad thing is that we do this to a lot of people in our lives. It seems like the people closest to us get those worst versions, those most wounded parts of us to show up. But here's a tricky part that I want to mention before I go any further, because you could be thinking, I don't have those moments of rage. Like, wow, I just can't even, like identify with that. But anger doesn't always look like yelling. Sometimes it looks like sarcasm. Think about that cutting comment wrapped in a joke, but it's really not funny to everybody. It's kind of hurtful. Or the silent treatment. Maybe you say, I'm not mad, while your energy says otherwise. Because your energy is so readable. Everybody understands what's going on within you, even if you're not willing to acknowledge it. It could be over controlling everything. Maybe you feel like you need to have your hand in every single thing because the chaos outside mirrors the chaos inside. So if I can make everything out here in order, maybe I'll feel an order in here. And that was me also. Like I lived a lot of my life needing to have control of every scenario, every situation so that I could feel like less less of chaos inside. I could just feel like there was peace. Or maybe it's resentment. Resentment is like a slow simmer that makes you snap over time. And it could be like snide remarks or just a feeling of not being connected to that person, that they're taking advantage of you. And so you show less love, you show less compassion towards them. Or maybe it's hyper independence because you're tired of being let down. Like you just feel like you can't trust anyone else. And so you're really dogmatic about, I will do it all by myself. You might be mad, but you might actually be sad. And that's the important thing to look at. It's not about like that thing that's showing, like being mad or resentful or like hyper controlling. Those are just the symptoms of something that's really much deeper. Maybe you're grieving something you never got. And maybe you've just forgotten about it in, up here in your thinking brain because it's been pushed down to the back because it's so painful. But it's time to really see what it is. Or maybe you're scared to be vulnerable again. That is really scary. And I, want to extend my heart out to you if that's you. And I want you to know that it's okay. It's okay. You're not crazy. You're only human. And so, what do we do with all of this? Like, I've given you a lot of information, and you can be sitting here thinking, okay, now what do I do now that I know that I'm really angry and I don't want to show up and be angry to people? So, how do I heal from this? So, the number one thing to do is stop shaming ourselves. And that's not just like, I'm just going to stop shaming myself. That's, like when that comes up, get curious with it. Instead of trying to calm down or push that away or run away from the shame, just start getting curious. And here's a tool that you can use, and you can just simply call it like a curiosity check in. And the first thing that you can do when you feel that stuff coming up is pause. Really just stepping into that pause for the moment and begin to pay attention to your breathing. Just pay attention to the breath going in and the breath going out. And then take one deep breath. Just take a deep breath in that moment and put your hand on your heart if you can and ask, what am I really feeling underneath this? Like I feel resentful right now, but what's underneath that resentfulness? Like where is this feeling coming from? And then maybe ask yourself, where have I felt this before? Is there a memory that comes up of a time when you felt like you were unseen or you felt like, and maybe it's a consistent thing, like when we get something in our head that we're unseen, then we're looking for all the places that the loved ones that we have in our lives don't see us. And then that begins to build on top of each other. And then we begin to have a resentment. But what if it was really never about the person that you're putting it on? What if it was deeper? And so asking yourself, where have I felt this before, can help you really find where it's been living and where it's really active. And then, of course, you want to validate the way you're feeling. You've been holding a lot, and you can say that to yourself like, wow, I just had no idea that you were holding this. And you don't have to solve it in that moment. The truth is, just by acknowledging it, that alone begins to rewire your nervous system and begin healing. Because think about it. You normally just jump from this to this, and you don't stop in the middle, pause, and really get curious with yourself and allow yourself the space to just be. Even if it's in a negative emotion, just allowing yourself to be and seeing it and getting curious with it with compassion begins to rewire your nervous system. And it's amazing how quickly that happens, even without solving it in the moment. And so let's take a moment together. If you're somewhere safe, you can close your eyes. If you're not, you can pause this or come back to this, where you dropped off at, and then jump into this mini encounter reflection so that you can really step into what it is that we're talking about and maybe even connect with your heart on a deeper level, which would be really, really cool. So if you're somewhere safe, close your eyes. Take a deep breath in, hold it for a moment, and then exhale. Let your exhale be long, longer than your breath in. Let's do one more. Deep breath in, hold at the top, and then exhale, letting it all out. I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time I felt angry? Maybe it's been a really long time. Maybe it was earlier this morning. It doesn't matter when it was. And if you can't think of a time that you felt angry, maybe you can just visualize a time where you felt sad. And think about, what might I have actually needed in that moment? What was my heart really yearning for? Was it to be seen? Was it to feel love? Was it to be validated? Whatever it is. And a lot of times it's, what's that first thing that comes up? Go with that. And then see, is there a younger part of me that needs to be seen in this moment? And just the way that you simply ask that is there a part of me that is wanting to be seen right now? With your eyes closed, in your mind's eye, or in that knowing, begin to feel, does that feel like a younger version of me? And if so, you can even say, what age is it that I feel like you are? And sometimes a number will come clear in your mind's eye and your consciousness, and just go with that. So it could be a younger version of you. It could be, more of, a teenager or even older. Is there a younger part of me that needs to be seen? And then just invite Jesus into that moment. And the way you do that is just simply inviting Jesus. Jesus, I would love for you to come and be with us in this moment. And then let him show you where that root is. And this may feel like it's going really fast, but I want you to, when you invite Jesus into that moment, I want you to begin to feel the presence of the Mighty One with you. If you need to stay there for a moment and experience that before you move on, then do that. And as you engage with that love and peace and joy that you feel whenever He's right there, manifested in that space with you, because He's always around, He's always ready. But oftentimes we're not as aware of His presence. So when you become more aware of His presence by inviting Him into the moment, then let Him show you where that root is. And this is where we activate our imagination and we allow our imagination to open up so we can see these things. And sometimes He'll show you with a picture, a memory. Maybe it's a place in your body that you're just holding it. And let Him speak truth over the emotion that's underneath the anger. Like, for instance, that shame. Let Him begin to speak truth over you, showing you that you're safe now, but that doesn't have to have control of you, that you get to decide if you want to carry the shame or not, but it's not required. In fact, He would so prefer you to give it over to Him. I hear Him saying that my yoke is light. Give me your burdens. Let me carry them. And He will give you peace and joy and fullness of the kingdom so that you see all the resources that are available for you. And as you let Him show you that you're safe now, seeing that you don't have to keep hiding behind the anger or the rage, showing you that your emotions are welcome. There are no bad emotions. They just bring either positive or negative aspects, but there's no bad emotions. All emotions are good and necessary. They're messages. Hearing Jesus say that you're not too much, that you're not broken. You've just been carrying emotions that were never, like you were never taught to express or how to process them. And as you come back to this place, you begin to see that all emotions are okay, that there's not an emotion you have to hide or push down, that whatever emotion is coming up, it's perfectly fine to show it. It's perfectly fine to express it in a healthy way, like keeping your heart connected to Jesus, keeping your heart connected to love, knowing that you're not alone and that you're safe helps you to be able to be really honest with where these emotions are coming from. And it gives you language for it that you never had before. And that begins to change moment by moment how you feel and how you interact and how you show up in the world. So stay in this place as long as you want to. I'm going to sign off here in a moment, but I want you to know if this hits home for you, like I said, share it with a friend. And if you're ready to start healing what's underneath, I'd love to help you because that's exactly the kind of work we do inside the Stress Less, Live More program. We don't just manage symptoms, we heal at the root. It's important to know that your heart matters. And I'm so proud of you for listening to this today. I bless you and I send lots of love and care and compassion and like truth into you right now so that you can begin to see the truth about who you are, that you are amazing, that you were created with a specific purpose, which is to show the world the beauty of what God put in you. And so I pray and believe that today blessed you in a way that you could start beginning to engage with what is going on in your heart and begin to see the truth of what's underneath because it's all good. Even the stuff that happened to you that wasn't good created something within you that is good. And so we want to get to those things. We want to get to the truth of who you are instead of living a shell of a person. So, love you so much. Be blessed. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about this. And of course, you can DM us, DM me at any time and ask any questions if you'd like more information about what are next steps. We also have guided encounters that you can go and check out that will really help you lead you through a lot of these things if you feel like you need something a little bit longer or a little bit more specific. We have topics and you can find all of those on our YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll find them there under the Guided Encounters tab. We have a playlist there for you. If you're watching this on Facebook, you can simply go to YouTube and you can search The Undivided Heart, and our channel will show up. You'll see a picture of Susan and I, and you will go to the playlist that says Guided Encounters, and then just pick one that feels right, like whatever's feeling, whatever's resonating with you in that moment, then listen to that one. And my encouragement is to find a quiet place, put your earphones in, your AirPods, headphones, whatever, and lie down, get really comfortable, and just allow your whole body, mind, body, and spirit to go into this encounter and experience the truth that you're amazing, that you were created with love and for love, and for you to live life that way. And that's our desire for you. So have a blessed Tuesday. I'll see you back here with Susan next week. Bye.